Alright mate, a lot of people seem to be confused about the term social construct, especially when it comes to gender being one. They seem to think that something being a social construct makes it fake and therefore unimportant, but that's a massive oversimplification. But first, let's get a definition of what a social construct is. A social construct is a concept or perception of something based on the collective views developed and maintained within a society or social group, as opposed to existing inherently or naturally. As the definition suggests, I really need to run. Like now. Eggs, take over. Social constructs, as the definition suggests, are built by the collective beliefs of a social group. And that social group can be anything from something as small as a family or something as big as an entire nation. But those beliefs are then perpetuated, maintained, and reinforced by the present members of that social group and the future members of that social group, all continuing to believe in that belief. For example, there's no naturally occurring big red line that cuts through the Alps defining the borders between Switzerland and France. But we all believe that there is a border, and we all agree where that border is. That's a social construct. Well, more specifically, it's one belief that makes up the bigger social construct of a nation. In this particular circumstance, the nations of Switzerland and France. Now, because social constructs exist due to collective belief in them, they don't often get questioned. In fact, a lot of the time, they get taken for granted, which is why when I said that family is a social construct to this commenter, they tried to prove me wrong by conflating family and genetic lineage. Now, all life has genetic lineage, that's just obvious, from bacteria to animal to plants. But not all life has family. For example, sea turtles just lay their eggs in a hole on the beach and then fuck off, and plants throw their seeds into the air and never think about them again. And like bacteria, they might not even see the bacteria that they split into again in their entire life. So what we consider as humans as family is socially constructed. It's not something that just exists naturally. And that's further proven by how flexible and developmental the idea of family is. Because, you see, societies hold culture and culture ideas quite dear, but culture ideas change over time, and as they do, so do the social constructs that society hold. And with family, we only have to look at 3 very close together snapshots in order to see this happening. Back in the 1950s, the collective culture idea of a family was a nuclear one, aka a cisgender heterosexual couple, both the same race, whom had 2 to 3 children, which the woman had to look after while the man spent his days at work. In the 90s, those culture ideas had shifted, and people saw families where the mum worked as equally valid as the ones where solely the dad worked. Interracial families were also seen as a bit more valid than in the 50s, though there was still a long way to go on that front. And now in the present day, the construction of family has developed even further to include non-heterosexual couples, mixed-race couples, and even single parents. Blood isn't even a prerequisite anymore as well, with adoptive parents and chosen families being seen more and more often. So back to the original point, no, social constructs aren't fake. And I'd also say that they're important too. Because after all, concepts such as a nation or family still greatly inform how we live our lives, how we understand ourselves, and how we interact with the world around us. Sorry, 1 minute now. Hello?
Hey, Alice.
Oh, hey, Laura. Can I just ring you back, in a bit? Because I'm just...
That's actually what I was calling about. So, all the stuff you've said so far is great, but you're 5 pages in and you still haven't talked about gender.
I mean, I'm going to move on to, the next section.
Need help?
I mean, that'd be... Bugger. The bride's just got here. I'm going to have to run. Thank you for the offer, though.
Are you recording at a wedding?
Sunday, it's when I always shoot my videos.
But you're at a wedding!
Yeah, and I've really got to run to it right now, babes. Talk soon.
At a wedding? It's dedication.
So, we now understand that a social construct is a society-wide held belief in an idea that shapes and structures our behaviour, but it develops and changes over time as culture develops and changes. So why is gender a social construct? Well, let's take a little bit of an exploration into gender. So gender is made up of identity, expression, cultural practices, gender roles, etc. And in the West, like the English-speaking West now, we have men, women, and non-binary people who are becoming more and more normalized in our culture, whereas before we had like a strict binary. So already it's changed. But if we go into different time periods and different cultures, then it changes even further. Like their genders change entirely. For example, if we go to pre-colonial India, they had men, women, and these people, who I'm not going to try and pronounce the name of because I will butcher that word. But they're essentially what we would now know in the West as like trans women. But that maybe is boiling it down a bit too much and I don't want to like culturally appropriate. So anyway, different gender roles to what we have now. And then even in countries where, or like cultures that have a strict gender binary, like man and woman, how they understand those roles or like those genders is entirely different and potentially disturbing to like our modern interpretation of those ideas. For example, if we go to ancient Greece, women weren't seen, they had a man-woman binary, but women weren't seen as people. They weren't seen as beings worthy of personhood. They were instead like seen at the same sort of level as animals, while men were seen as like human. Oh, and then let's not even get me started on like gender expression and how that's changed, because we all know that like men wearing a suit and tie, that's like biological. That's just built into biology. So my point is that everything we've talked about in this video so far, the Alps and family and all that sort of stuff, you can like take everything we've talked about and apply it to gender, unless you wrongfully conflate sex and gender. So, yeah. Gender's a social construct, and that doesn't make it fake or unimportant. It still allows us to structure our lives around it, but it just means it's something that we all collectively believe in, and it's flexible because of that, because our collective beliefs change over time. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a wedding to get pissed at. Thank you so much for watching that rather unique Trans 101 video. As always, if you want to help me keep making the show, then please do visit Patreon and get lots of behind the scenes content. Or PayPal for like just a one-off donation if that's what you can afford. But don't worry if you can't help financially. Sharing these videos about is always massively helpful and helps the channel grow and just reach the education to so many other people. So that really helps too. I'd also obviously like to give a massive thank you to Laura Crone for appearing in this video. She makes fantastic video essays and you should really definitely go give her channel a look. Like she has this really good one on Captain Marvel and also the reaction to Captain Marvel, and it's just fantastic. Links to Patreon, PayPal, Laura's channel and all that sort of stuff are in the description. So just scroll down ahead to have a little look. Oh, and lastly, I'd like to give a massive thank you to my $10+ patron, Matthew Boyce. Matthew is one of my oldest patrons, I think, and I can't thank him enough for all the help he's given me various donations. So thank you so much, Matthew. And if anyone else wants to get behind the scenes stuff and everything I just said, like I said, links are in the description. Bye!